Greatest night in the history of MMA by far.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's ever going to top this until something does.
I don't think anything's ever going to top this, man. This was... I keep sitting back going, wow. Wow. Like literally just saying wow. When you've seen so much in your life, to sit there going wow after...
You can you no. I think Quando eu falei, todo mundo falou que eu tava louco. Eu falei, ninguém quis acreditar, falaram que eu tava doido. Tá aí, ó. I can't believe that.
It's really hard to put it into words right now. I mean, just trying to enjoy this moment. And yeah, it was such a crazy ride. We had a lot of delays. A couple of the like the rehearsal delayed, tonight delayed. But yeah, it just, you know, these are the, again, I wouldn't recommend this to my enemy. We are some of the toughest people on this earth. Mentally, physically, all these guys up here and all the guys that lost tonight. We, and me specifically, I've said it from day one, I'm a promoter's wet dream. And I proved that tonight.
She just defeated Ilia Topuria by round 4 TKO to corner stoppage at UFC Freedom 250 on the White House lawn, and is now the undisputed lightweight world champion at 37 years old. I can't believe I'm saying these things. I thought Strickland's upset against Chimaev was going to be enough this year for the MMA gods to start making logic true once again in this sport, but no. Justin Gaethje puts a whooping on Ilia Topuria. Fair enough, survives a nightmarish round 2, but I had Justin Gaethje winning this fight 3-1. It wasn't even like Ilia Topuria was clearly ahead the whole fight and Justin Gaethje just broke him in round 4 and then Ilia Topuria quits on the stall. I had Gaethje up 3-1. I thought he won the first round very clear. It was competitive. Ilia was landing big shots. What am I saying? What am I saying? The whole card was insane. But to finish like this, I can't wait to break down the rest of the card. But this fight, Ilia comes out, he's wandering into jabs.
No, he wanted to quit.
It's almost like he's trying to not to. And that'll do it.
We won. We won.
20,000 bits. No, it's 200,000 bits. 200,000.
200,000 apiece.
200,000 bits.
200,000 apiece.
200,000 a pop, bitch.
200,000 a pop.
But that doesn't mean he's gonna get. Oh no!
Yeah, he's good. I should take my money out.
No, Alex! No! There's no way they're not stopping this. No! Are you kidding me?
And then last thing I want to ask you about the co-main event, Cyril, obviously amazing performance. He comes out and says, man, give me that rematch with Tom Aspinall. We need to get that done. Obviously, we're not going to make fights tonight. But is there anything standing in the way of you making that fight right now? Do you feel comfortable that's a fight you can make happen?
I don't know. I'm not even thinking about that right now. Yeah, Cyril gone. You know, listen, it's hard to move up 3 weight classes in MMA, and especially in the UFC. And Cyril looked great tonight. You know, the guy, we always say, he's a heavyweight that moves like a middleweight, and he definitely looked like one tonight. You know, we'll get back. I'm going to let my people have some time off, you know, this week, and then, you know, we'll get back at it, and we'll figure out what's next.
This is the second time you've claimed the interim heavyweight title. How much more satisfying was it doing it this time, given how in high regard Alex Pereira is and everybody talking about him potentially being the greatest of all time if he won this belt?
Yeah, the first time it was You see, I started my career really late, and I was on my debut, but I did very well. I was really happy. But when you feel the up and down in career, like the difficult to stay on the top, is always a pleasure to go back on it. And so yeah, it's better. And because also the White House, because Alex Pereira, and because of the finish, you see. So
all thoughts on how the entire fight played out?
I was counted out so bad. He's very good. My liver still hurts right now. The body shots were crazy. I mean, he was really, really fast. But when he didn't get the finish at the end of the second round, I think it really took his spirit. He really backed himself into a corner, saying he's going to be so dominant. I said it. When we go to the second round, you're going to be like, what the f***? When we go to the third round, you're going to be like, what the f***? I proved that tonight. When they look back, I think my career is going to...
Here's what made UFC Freedom 250 at the White House truly unforgettable. It wasn't defined by a single incredible finish or one headline-grabbing moment. The entire event became history in the making. Every bout on the card ended before the judges were needed. Every single fight ended with a finish. 7 contests held on the South Lawn of the White House, and all 7 concluded with knockout victories. That isn't just an entertaining fight card, it's a statement that will be remembered for years. And remarkably, the chaos began long before Justin Gaethje entered the octagon. The co-main event delivered a dramatic story all on its own. Alex Pereira, already a 2-division champion, stepped into the cage chasing history. A victory would have made him the first fighter to capture UFC titles in 3 separate weight classes. On paper, it looked like another opportunity to strengthen an already legendary career. But reality reminded everyone that size can outweigh greatness. Sometimes weight divisions exist for a reason. Regardless of talent or championship pedigree, Cyril Gane entered the fight with every advantage a true heavyweight could ask for. His reach, movement, athletic ability, technical striking, and naturally massive frame made him a nightmare matchup. From the opening exchanges, Pereira struggled to establish any rhythm. Gane controlled the distance with a sharp jab, mixed in powerful kicks to dictate the pace, and fought with calm precision. He never rushed. He simply stayed disciplined while slowly taking command of the fight. As soon as the second round began, Gane shifted into another gear. He landed a crushing jab that slipped straight through Pereira's defense, instantly putting the Brazilian in serious danger. Smelling the finish, Gane refused to let him recover. He poured on relentless combinations, overwhelming Pereira with non-stop offense until the former champion could no longer withstand the pressure. Just 1 minute and 27 seconds into round 2, Gane reclaimed the interim heavyweight championship while crushing Pereira's dream of becoming a 3-division titleholder. It was another reminder that Gane remains one of the most dangerous men in the heavyweight division, and now he stands ready to challenge Tom Aspinall whenever the undisputed champion returns. But the night's highlight reel finishes were far from over. Former bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley entered his matchup against Ayman Zahabi, looking to rebuild his momentum after a difficult stretch in his career. Zahabi arrived riding an impressive 7-fight winning streak and carried all the confidence of a contender on the rise. It had all the ingredients for a closely contested battle. Instead, it became the statement O'Malley desperately needed. Early in the fight, the momentum wasn't entirely in his favor. Zahabi's leg kicks were landing consistently, and he was beginning to find his timing and distance. For a moment, it looked like O'Malley was losing control. Then everything changed. O'Malley switched his stance, made a quick adjustment, and immediately found the opening he had been searching for. A perfectly timed straight right hand crashed into Zahabi and sent him crashing to the canvas. Before the referee could even react to what had happened, O'Malley had already turned away, celebrating the knockout, saluting the military, and confidently walking off. His message couldn't have been clearer. The Suga Show had officially returned. The second round finish instantly reignited his title ambitions, and he wasted no time calling for another championship opportunity. After suffering back-to-back losses to Merab Dvalishvili, O'Malley reminded the entire division exactly why he once wore UFC gold around his waist. Then the event delivered one of its biggest surprises of the night. Josh Hoyt, the undefeated heavyweight prospect fresh off a career-defining victory over Curtis Blades, stepped into the cage against Derek Lewis, the UFC's all-time knockout leader. Lewis wasn't just another name on the card. He had reportedly been personally requested by President Trump to compete at this historic White House event. Expectations were high, but the version of Lewis that showed up looked nothing like the devastating finisher who had terrorized the heavyweight division for years. Hoyt entered the fight with a disciplined strategy and never strayed from it. The objective was simple: close the distance, get Lewis to the mat, maintain top control, and completely eliminate the threat of his trademark knockout punch. From the opening moments, Hoyt executed that blueprint to perfection. Hoyt wasted no time putting his strategy into action. He secured an early takedown, forced Lewis onto his back, and immediately took control with relentless ground and pound. Lewis absorbed heavy punishment throughout the opening round, while Hoyt even came close to finishing the fight with an armbar before the horn sounded. Lewis Lewis managed to survive, but by the end of the round, the damage had clearly taken its toll. The second round exposed just how much that first 5 minutes had drained him. Lewis tried to move forward and apply pressure, but his energy was fading fast. Hoyt, meanwhile, looked sharp, explosive, and completely in command. He repeatedly snapped Lewis's head back with crisp jabs, landing clean shot after clean shot. Lewis attempted to answer, but his punches lacked accuracy and power, swinging wildly without finding the target. Hoyt stayed composed, continued picking him apart, and eventually overwhelmed the veteran until Lewis collapsed to the canvas. At just 49 seconds into round 2, the undefeated heavyweight prospect earned the biggest victory of his career. Hoyt improved to a perfect 10-0 and took another major step toward the top of the heavyweight rankings. Lewis, now sitting at 29-14, experienced firsthand what happens when a younger opponent combines elite athleticism, high-level wrestling, superior speed, and flawless execution of a game plan. The highlight reel finishes kept coming throughout the rest of the card. Mauricio Ruffy, an explosive lightweight known for his knockout power, squared off against former title challenger Michael Chandler in a matchup that promised action from the opening bell. Chandler's reputation as one of the division's toughest competitors was well established, but Ruffy showed exactly why many believe he's one of the brightest rising stars at lightweight. It didn't take long for him to make his presence felt. Just 89 seconds into the opening round, Ruffy unleashed a crushing strike that sent Chandler crashing to the canvas. The referee immediately stepped in, officially ending the contest at the 4:29 mark of round 1. It was yet another spectacular knockout, another unforgettable performance, and another rising contender making a powerful statement on the historic White House card. Next came Bo Nickel, the undefeated middleweight sensation many fans had been waiting to see tested against tougher opposition. Standing across from him was Kyle Daukaus, a respected and dangerous competitor in the division. Nickel entered the fight with every physical advantage imaginable: elite wrestling, explosive athleticism, tremendous strength, and relentless pressure. From the opening exchange, the gap between the two fighters became obvious. Nickel wasted little time imposing his style. He secured the takedown, controlled every position, and completely dictated the pace of the fight. Daukaus simply couldn't find an answer. Just 4 minutes and 34 seconds into the first round, Nickel sealed another dominant finish and walked away from the White House with one of the biggest victories of his undefeated career. Earlier on the card, Diego Lopez also delivered an impressive performance by stopping Steve Garcia in the second round, adding another finish to what had already become an unforgettable night of action. By the time the final fight had ended and every victorious fighter stood with their hand raised, the UFC had sent a powerful message. When the world's best athletes compete under the brightest spotlight, unforgettable moments are inevitable. UFC Freedom 250 wasn't just another event, it became a showcase of elite talent delivering highlight reel finishes from start to finish. But if we're being honest, years from now people won't remember this card simply because all 7 fights ended inside the distance. They won't remember it only because the UFC held an event on the grounds of the White House. The moment that will define UFC Freedom 250 is Justin Gaethje dismantling Ilia Topuria. That's the story people will still be talking about years from now. On that night, Gaethje reminded everyone of something that often gets overlooked in conversations filled with technique, strategy, and fight IQ. He brought something much simpler and far more terrifying. He brought pure, relentless violence. Real, raw, unrelenting violence. For a fighter who's been in wars for nearly 2 decades, who's taken shots that would end most men's careers, and who's survived against some of the most dangerous hitters in combat sports history, Gaethje carried into that cage the kind of mentality that can't be taught. He knew he was the underdog. He knew the world had written him off. He was a massive underdog against Topuria, and he didn't care. What he did care about was one thing: finding a way to break the fighter everyone thought was unbeatable. The way Gaethje executed his game plan was methodical violence wrapped in relentless pressure. He didn't back up. He didn't respect the striking distance the way people expected him to. Instead, he walked through strikes, absorbed damage, and paid it back with compound interest. His combinations came fast. His footwork cut off angles. His chin, which has been tested by the hardest hitters in UFC history, allowed him to take shots and still advance. And every time they tried to create distance or reset, Gaethje was right there closing the gap, firing back, and refusing to let the fight exist on Topuria terms. Ilia Topuria, on the other hand, showed up with everything that made him dominant for so long. His precision was still there. His striking was still sharp. His fight IQ was evident in moments where he found openings and made Gaethje pay. But against someone like Gaethje, precision alone sometimes isn't enough. At a certain point, when you're facing a fighter who's willing to trade damage to deal more damage, when you're fighting someone who doesn't care about stylistic matchups because he cares more about breaking you down, the entire calculus changes. The fight really came into focus in the second round. This was where Topuria's dominance started to slip. He'd had success early, but as the round progressed, Gaethje's pressure was building. He was landing more. He was hurting Topuria. The Georgian's composure, which had been his greatest asset throughout his career, started to crack. And when your entire identity is built on staying calm, on being untouchable, on being 3 steps ahead mentally, having that slip away is catastrophic. Gaethje smelled it. He could feel his opponent breaking, and he turned up the intensity. By the third round, what we were watching wasn't a competitive fight anymore. We were watching a fighter in Gaethje who'd found the formula and wasn't backing off. He was landing combinations, moving his head offline, and most importantly, he was making Topuria pay for every exchange. Topuria was still fighting back, still landing shots, but the momentum had completely shifted. His face was starting to show the damage. His movement was slowing down. His options were narrowing. And then between the third and fourth rounds, the doctor and Topuria's corner had to have a conversation about whether he could continue. Topuria insisted he could fight. The doctor gave permission, but sometimes in MMA, when you're that badly hurt and the damage is accumulating at that rate, the question isn't whether you can fight, it's whether you should. The corner made the decision. They threw in the towel. Gaethje stood victorious, and Topuria couldn't answer the bell for the fourth round. What happened to Ilia? Topuria in that cage goes beyond just losing a fight. This wasn't simply a defeat, it was the collapse of an untouchable reputation. For the first time in his professional career, Ilia Topuria discovered what it feels like to be completely broken down, physically overwhelmed, and unable to control the pace of his own fight. His pinpoint accuracy couldn't slow Gaethje's relentless pressure. His footwork failed to create the space he needed. His striking wasn't enough to force Gaethje to fight at a comfortable distance. Even the mental composure that had carried him through every challenge of his career finally met an opponent it couldn't overcome. Across the cage stood a fighter who had endured countless wars, rebuilt himself time and time again, and reached a point where giving up simply no longer existed in his mindset. Meanwhile, Justin Gaethje proved something extraordinary. At 37 years old, after nearly 20 years of brutal battles inside the cage, he showed the world that his story is far from over. He's not a faded veteran hanging on for one last paycheck. He's not a former contender living off his reputation. He's a world champion once again. More importantly, he's the man responsible for producing the biggest upset of 2026, doing it on the sport's grandest stage with the president watching and millions of fans witnessing history unfold. Everything about the division changes after a result like this. Topuria was supposed to represent